Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talk Time. Talk Time is a platform dedicated to amplifying the voice of our directly impacted individuals and leaders, where we discuss and build around all things related to doing time in the criminal injustice system. I am your host, Tasha White. Today, we will have the honor of speaking with Kyle Robinson, who is a prisoner advocate moved by his own post-incarceration experiences to encourage our society to address excessive and racist incarceration practices. He is the creator of Amplified Silence and co-creator of Miscarrying Justice League, a social media page and outlet for incarcerated women to narrate their own stories. Founding member of About Time Toastmasters, the first club designed to prepare and equip advocates for prison reform and systems impacting people. Today, I want us to make the metaphorical revolving door into a sliding door and let currently and formerly incarcerated people decide and demonstrate what side they belong on. By Kyle Robinson. One second. Without further ado, I introduce you to Kyle Robinson. Kyle, you're on mute. Hold on. Hi, Kyle. Welcome to Talk Time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Natasha. Honored to be here. Honored to be here. Can't overstate it.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do.
Honored to be here.
For all that you do and for coming on Talk Time with me. And I wanted to kind of like get into it because you're so amazing. You do so much amazing work and we have a lot of bases to touch on, right? So first, let me ask you this. What inspired you to start Toastmasters Club focused on reentry for formerly incarcerated individuals?
I want to answer the question two different ways, to be honest with you. One would be to look at people like you who've gotten out and gravitated back towards prison, not not in a recidivist way, but reaching out. When you get out, it's so easy to, or so natural to want to move away from such a terrible situation and just completely disassociate from it. However, I see people who've gone through much more than me, served way longer sentences, get out and still look for ways to help people on the inside. Now, I started last year or the year before last maybe, with the Amplified Silence podcast. And at the time, that was the most that I knew how to do. My mission has always been the same. And as I grow and learn as a person, then my methods of advocacy will always evolve. This seemed like the greatest and most concise package of gift that I could give to someone or help create for someone who's getting out and or who's gotten out and hadn't yet found the confidence and the tools to speak and present themselves, the way that we are meant to be presented.
Absolutely.
As dignified people.
That's the first part, or do you want to go with finish? Continue.
Second, I would just say my own experience with it. It was a total surprise to me. I was not planning on joining Toastmasters, and I spent, from the time that I got out, nearly 15, if not 15 years of really struggling at best.
Wow.
If not damaging, relationships or opportunities based on my inability to communicate, because everything inside taught me that I don't matter, that my voice is not heard,
right,
that people don't care, and
right,
you're wasting your time trying to move a message, when in reality I just needed to be able to call myself accountable to me. I needed to be able to say that I gave it everything I can. And once I got into Toastmasters, I quickly realized oh shoot, I got a lot to learn. But
Right.
more importantly, I realized it's possible to develop into the speaker who I want to, the presenter and communicator and leader who I want to be.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Even with the small bit of information I have about Toastmasters and the minimum amount of time that I was actually joined your meeting the other morning, I see that is definitely a need for not only society, but definitely formerly incarcerated people. You know, the major problem we have with coming out of prison is getting reacclimated with the world and speaking. We get so accustomed to speaking to our audience, and which is natural. You know, even when you go through school, they tell you when you do a presentation, speak to your audience. So if your audience for the last 20 years has been incarcerated individuals or corrections, it's a different tone. It is a different presentation. It is different all around the board, where some of us can get lost in speaking what I like to call yard talk. So my next question to you in writing this line is, how do you think Toastmasters can help individuals who are re-entering society after incarceration?
It offers a couple of different assets. One, it offers uh, sometimes a captive audience,
Mhm.
no pun intended. It also
Right.
offers it offers a curriculum. So joining Toastmasters is one thing, but to actually work the program, to utilize it, you join what's called pathways, and there's several different paths you can choose from based on your intention as a leader and a communicator. For example, mine is persuasive influence. I
Right.
want to be able to move people from one position to another. And that happens, or that's developed through a series of speeches and tasks that challenge me personally to ask myself questions I hadn't had to ask myself before, to consider things I've never had to consider before. It demands that I write, which assists me in organizing my thoughts. I hope. I hope y'all be the judge of that. But
Right.
so it collects and brings together these all of the elements that you need to do yourself justice when trying to grow as a communicator at that level.
Okay. What are some of
When
the
you
specific skills? Oh, go ahead. You
no
wasn't finished. Go on to the next.
no, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Go ahead.
What are some of the specific skills that you hope members of this club will gain?
Communication, leadership, confidence. Communication, leadership, confidence.
Wow.
And when you get out, even if you have a version of those, there's
Mhm.
always room for improvement. Nobody's ever, hit the max on their ability to communicate or their ability to lead. And
Absolutely.
most of the people who helped inspire or who raised my awareness for the need for this issue are people who've gotten out of prison, and they're advocates. They're either advocating for a person or a policy or a cause. And I look at us, and I'm putting myself in this category, and I
Mhm.
think if we are the best shot that people on the inside have of being represented out here, they're fucked
Right.
because we've gotten out and we have all this. I don't know if I can say that. My bad.
You
I,
can say whatever you want.
okay, thanks. So we get out and we got all this passion because it deserves it. It's a legitimate issue,
Right.
and we get out here in a world that doesn't meet us with that. And it if you're not intentional, you'll actually begin to do damage as an
Right.
advocate for the people who you want to help, and that is a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling when to know that someone on the inside is harmed or suffering because of your actions or inabilities, your limitations in my case.
Well, I can definitely say uh, the skills that you have chosen are very important. The more confident a person is in addressing the issues that they find most important to themselves, the more articulate they are, it will actually push the passion in a faster and in the proper direction. As people, we are our hardest critics. We're our worst critics. You know what I'm saying? And from the minute of incarceration, you begin to become dehumanized. And a lot of people don't realize, not even for themselves, that the stagnation that is created by being in an environment that does the same thing over and over and over again, alone, once released and life just happening, the train is late, the bus is late. You go to the supermarket to buy one thing, they don't have it. So yeah, minor things like that are a big deal for us. So imagine having a conversation where you are trying to convey a certain message, and the receiver is not responding the way you hope that they would. Now, is it your fault or is it theirs? Well, at least with a program like Toastmasters, you will know that you are actually sending the message correctly. And if they aren't responding the way you want them to, then it's because they don't give a shit, which is nothing new. So for the next question, what are some of the biggest challenges that individuals face when re-entering society after incarceration? And how do you see Toastmasters addressing these challenges?
So I think there's internal and there's external challenges that people face when they're getting out. And obviously everybody's different. People are going to experience these challenges on an individual basis. For me, oh man, I'm one of those people who didn't have the confidence. I had all of the language to, present my thoughts, but I had zero confidence that anyone could hear. And that during that time of stagnation, I was not preparing.
Right,
Most people are not sitting around in prison saying, how can I be effective or helpful to society when I get out? They're kind of mandated to care just about themselves and surviving from day to day.
exactly.
So when I got out, the skills, the enhanced set of skills that I had were not the ones that I needed to be effective at what I want to do. So it actually took lots and lots of people contributing time and sitting up with me and explaining concepts that I didn't get. Now everything's virtual.
Right,
I probably did 6 months of presentation on computers where I would have been looking at you just like this, and you're looking at like, where the hell is his eyes at?
right, right,
So
right.
it took a lot of people pointing things out, and then another one of the challenges is it takes time. Getting out doesn't mean getting up. It's a lot like being a fish out of water, or
Right,
it's like joining a marathon, but you've got weights on,
right.
and you dropped into the middle of the race when you've been running in the other direction. It's which is just saying that I needed to get up to speed in some areas and I needed to kind of overcorrect in
Mhm.
some areas. And Toastmasters is rounded out in a way that challenged me where I needed it. And the flexibility of the programs, there's no one standing over your shoulder making you do the program. But if you if you follow it through, and I started very early following it through. That's an important point. Get on pathways as soon as you get in. But if you get in there early and start going through the curriculum, you will see improvements yourself. I can look at myself on camera today, and it's nothing to write home about. But if you had seen me 6 months ago, a
Right.
year ago, a year and a half ago, it's progressively more obvious just how deficient I was. And I think that confidence is what I got from it.
Right.
But again, it
Absolutely.
offers more than that.
Well, I can tell the difference in your presentation from when I was on Amplified Silence with you. But even the other day when I joined Toastmasters at 7 o'clock in the morning, I think it was a Sunday. I'm like, what's going on? But hey, we doing this, we growing on Sunday, fine, right? Even with the feedback that they gave me as a guest, I noticed that I have said way less than I normally would say to, complete or put space in between the sentence. But what my concern is, and I don't know why other people don't see it this way, re-entry should start when you enter prison, right? Toastmasters is a curriculum that should be taught in prison as a form of a qualification for early release or something like that. Like they have ASAP, which I did ASAP as a drug addict and it didn't teach me nothing. I still came home and used drugs. But if you taught me how to speak and represent myself in a productive manner where I actually convey what I mean and get the reaction that I desire, my communication with everybody that I communicate with would be better, which would in turn eliminate a lot of chaos and confusion between incarcerated individuals, family members, relationships, all combined. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get too far off of that. But let me get
Yeah.
on to the question.
So, well, if I can just speak to that,
Yeah.
the ability to be heard is so valuable. It's such a necessary part of feeling like a complete human being, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
And when you're in there, you don't get that. Obviously, you don't get that.
Right.
So I think it would be amazing if they could find a way to offer some of their programs inside. There are clubs that have been chartered. There are clubs that exist inside of prisons. There's a few here in the States, and I think there's one or two in the UK. Don't hold me to the one about the UK, but that's a goal that I have, and maybe that comes to a future show. I
Yeah.
recognized.
We have unlimited talk time, baby. This is where we do it at. This is where we lay it out. You come up with the idea and we can make it happen.
So you need it in there as part of reentry. You need a path. And I actually talked to this guy once who was an instructor. He was a course instructor inside of prison. He was serving life without parole. And the guy was a really, really brilliant speaker, thoughtful speaker. And he used to teach a course. And in there, it's you can imagine how hard it is to get people in such a stressful environment, particularly young people, young inmates, to
Don't say inmate.
listen. Okay, give me the right terminology. Give me the best term.
Incarcerated individual. Here we use people. So
okay.
this is for everybody.
That's the one I can. Okay.
You came up with that?
Yeah, I thought I did.
When talking about incarcerated people or all people, we use people-centered language. The term inmate, convict, prisoner are off limits on any platform that I am on because we are talking about people. So for people in prison, it is incarcerated individual. For people out of prison, it is returning citizen or whatever other nice name besides Natasha you would like to call me, because all those names have applied to me at one time. And because we're so accustomed to hearing it, we don't know that it is derogatory.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, when I was in prison, inmates was a disrespectful term. Yeah. Convict was actually the term that, I don't want to say a term of endearment, but it was what you aspired to be. That just shows you how warped the mentality is during that experience.
Prison is the prison industrial complex was created to do one thing and one thing only: to keep us in line, to break us. So just like calling yourself a Christian. Like we adopted a religion that was basically created to control, to control the population by the white man. Um, the slave owners forced their religion on the slaves, and the slaves adopted them. It's just like we calling each other bitch or calling
Yeah.
each other nigger. We've adopted these derogatory terms, and it is time that we educate each other, in order to make progress. So here's my next question: how do you hope to recruit members for this club?
When I sat down and first started thinking about it, there were a few people who I knew that I was not going to touch this project without. I was like, if I can't get person A, B, C, and D to all buy in, you know, for this, then this is not the way of giving back or assisting people who are getting out with getting up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm outreaching to people who have such a passion about changing things in prison that it connects with me. I'm one of those people who I started off doing this way before I was ready. I started off as being an advocate way before I was ready. I actually started off unintentionally, dealing with family who was locked up.
Right.
But I knew that I needed people who validated for me something that nobody else in the world had. And there's, just a handful of them. And they're generally people who've been incarcerated before, have gotten out and gotten attached to this work or gotten right back into it, intentionally or not. And now I can't imagine, excuse me. And now I can't imagine a version of them
Right.
that is not centered on helping people on the inside.
Oh, wow.
Helping to reform the system. So to sum it up, personal connection to the issue is huge. I want to reach out to those people first. Toastmasters is a nonprofit. Membership is open to everyone. We need people who don't have the experience of being in prison to come and tell their experience as it relates to the incarceration system. We need people to come and listen to speeches. We need people to come and give speeches. We need people to show up and practice table topics. So there is room for everybody to play a part in shaping the ideal space that someone can grow in who has the types of challenges that may only be faced or be pretty unique to people who are in prison. I didn't have, outside of prison, much justification for why my communication skills were so lacking. So what I ran into for probably a year while I was trying to become more adequate as a communicator was people trying to help me, trying to work around or work through my deficiencies or my communication issues without understanding the impact of prison on those issues.
Right.
And it was just, head hitting the wall, head hitting the wall, head hitting the wall. That's one of the things that's so great about Pathways is that because it's a longer drawn out process, you get some time. I think when people are donating their personal time to you, they need to see results. They need to, which is, of course. And what people often don't understand is that when I get out of doing time, I'm not necessarily working I'm not working with the perspective of time in the same way that most of the world is.
Right. Absolutely.
It makes me exceptionally chill and laid back, but sometimes at the wrong time. And Pathways kind of gives you the flexibility to move at your own pace, but also it demands certain things of you that can objectively be, crossed off or, accounted for, or you may have to or someone can say, no, you didn't achieve this or you didn't accomplish this goal. And then you naturally gain clarity. I had some of the brightest communicators that I could imagine who just didn't have the experience of being incarcerated as a child in an adult prison. And that's just not something I can give to you in words. I
Right.
wish I could. If I could, if I could, but
Everybody would be aware.
yes.
I totally agree with you that that all people should, whether they've been incarcerated or not, if take advantage of a program like Toastmasters. Because I even notice depending on where you're from, how you speak can be difficult for you to navigate other population of people, other parts of the society. I notice being in this work, my mother always spoke really well. Let's start there.
When
She
you
grew
say
up
well, what do you mean? Like proper?
eloquent, proper. She speaks
Okay.
proper. Even my younger sister, people always joke and say she talks like a white person, which is an insult to black people. No, she talks intelligent. She speaks intelligently because that's how we were made. We had to speak. We weren't allowed to use slang. My mother wasn't allowed to use slang. Even my grandmother, we do not call her grandma. We call her grandmother because grandma's a nickname. She's our grandmother. My mother calls her mother. Um, but even in everyday society, for people that have not been incarcerated, I can tell you will have a total different conversation with upper class white people than you will standing in the hood. And why? Why is that? Why is it that you attribute somebody speaking eloquently to being white, and then somebody from, say, the project speaking hood, that's just acceptable? I don't think it is. And
Agreed.
what I've learned is you don't know that there's a better way to do things unless you've tried it and it's actually worked. I can tell you that it took a long time for me to get comfortable with speaking publicly, because I had lost my language, as I constantly say. And now I'm finding it again. But now I have to write down whatever I'm going to say so that I don't have all in the mix of it. Toastmasters is going to be great, and you already know I'm jumping in on board with you. But I do want people watching this to beware that even though this platform is strictly for formerly incarcerated and directly impacted people, everyone in the world is directly impacted. Little do you know. We all are related or know someone who has been in prison. And this platform is for those people as well. But this program can be for everybody. All right, so the next question, because we're running out of time.
Okay, so I was a little unclear just before you move on. When you said this platform, I wasn't sure if you was talking about Black Talk or if you were talking about
I'm
Time
talking
Toastmasters.
about both.
Okay, so about Time Toastmasters, and I want to say it so it's clear for the world. Membership is open to everyone. The intention behind this, the design, which I hope to achieve through the collaboration and through the selection of the co-founding officers, is intended to help people who've re-entered society or who are going to re-enter society. But everyone can come and be a member and support in different ways.
So, describe some of the specific activities or events that the Toastmasters Club focused on, Reentry will be hosting, and how do you think these events will benefit club members?
One of them you experienced yourself when you visited Duke Toastmasters the other day, and that's table topics. That's impromptu or extemporaneous, or as they say, off the cuff speaking. And this is the kind of speaking that we do all the time at work, in our relationships. This is basically you not getting to prepare or do homework, and your reaction is timed and it needs to fit within a certain window. Let me jump back and get a running start here. You mentioned a benefit that you saw was a quick awareness of your ahs and ums, your filler words, the
Mm-hmm.
things that our brain does, leads our mouth to do while we try to figure out what we're going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
It took probably, like I said, about 15 years to find Toastmasters. It took about 15 minutes into the table topic section before all of a sudden I was very I was much more aware, I should say. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to look back at this and be like, I got 50 ums, but I was less aware than I am today. And today I don't really have to think about it.
Right.
I'm much more comfortable taking a pause or just or taking a breath, but I don't feel unconfident. I'm not worried about you losing interest in what I'm saying. If you're going to lose interest in it, you probably already have. You're no longer watching.
Right.
I know that I have the content, but again, it's more organized. But the awareness, that's really my favorite benefit. And it's almost instant. Once you start noticing other people doing it, or you hear someone give you feedback
Right.
on your ahs and ums, because some people is know what I'm saying. That used to be my one. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Um, right. You, you know all of these verbal litter. I've heard it called that conveys to the listener. You don't really know what the hell you're talking about, or well, it conveys that to the listener.
Right.
That's exactly what it conveys. And once you notice how quickly you clean that up, you begin to realize, hold on, if I can affect my communication this way, what else can I do with it? Maybe I can use my voice inflection and begin to try to sound different.
Right.
Maybe I can try changing my pace, and that will keep people's attention. So you learn how, through trial and error, how to not just keep the listener or
Right.
retain the listener, but how to not push them away, which is easy to do subconsciously. And that, again, is what I saw myself doing and many others who advocate for people on the inside who have the dedication to the issue, but are just horrible to listen to or unpleasant to listen to
Right.
because they have not developed some of these skills that I don't want to call them basic skills, but they seem basic in the very short amount of time that I began to pick them up. It comes natural now to not um um or to change up the pace or to
Right.
change up the style or do it different types of tricks that I've learned to help stay engaged.
So I have right now I'm in the process of getting my 501c3 approved in the state of Virginia, which will be called, yes, thank you, Broken Crayons Can Still Color, and it will be a program that caters to trauma-informed care for women, right? Um, what I've learned in this arena of work that I do, especially when it comes to introduction of legislation, talking to senators, delegates, any type of elected official, you literally have 2 minutes. You literally have 2 minutes. Um, I am definitely, oh, I said, I am definitely aware that when you get to the point and you are explaining what you see, what you want, and what is actually happening, without the breakage of looking confused or sounding confused or stumbling over your words, that you actually get a desired result, right? So Toastmasters would be something that I would want to use as a program to for completion of the program itself, as a part of completion of the program. You cannot get a certificate of completion from this program without doing certain programming, and Toastmasters is one of them. And of course, you would be the one running it, but we'll talk about that at another day. So
Again,
we were,
it's
yeah.
truly a service. It's truly a gift to get. I've never heard somebody say they regretted improving their speech through Toastmasters.
Like, why would you? Things like Toastmasters and programs that help with self growth. See, people think self care is all about taking a bath on Sundays with candles, getting your nails done, getting your hair done. Self care starts with educating yourself on how to get the desired results for the things that you need for you, your family, and your community. So, if speaking better, writing better, better representation of yourself, being able to sit at a table confidently with the people that change the laws around the issues that are important to you is a part of self care.
For me, I first saw it on the job. I didn't understand. I had no idea how much communication on the job could affect my outlook on life, my happiness, what I bring home, what I don't. I never leave leave the job wondering like I used to all the time. How am I perceived? How did I sound? It's almost like you began to bring it up you began to bring it up earlier. You have to sometimes see it modeled.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you don't really know what's attainable. Because most of the jobs that I work at as a returning citizen or have worked at over this time are low paying jobs, low benefits, and pretty much all impoverished employees.
Right.
What I experienced was a comfort, a sinking into, well, this is just the way we talk. This is how it is.
Oh,
I changed that after I joined Toastmasters. And what I've witnessed, what I've experienced is an accountability out of people when they speak to me that I never witnessed in Tennessee or never witnessed before Toastmasters.
right.
And it's directly attributable to what I present to them.
Right. It is.
And
It is.
it's if it's just a, oh, I can't tell you.
I
I
can
can't
totally
tell you.
identify with that. So my husband, when he first came home from prison, he's so smart and he's always spoken very eloquently. He is actually the person that helped me start to regain my vocabulary because whenever I spoke to him in my normal slang to me, I sound to myself, I would sound ignorant. I'm just using that as an example of when I speak to you, I automatically come into the conversation as my best self, using my best language because it is a respect and it is also a self-conscious, a self-awareness that says if I speak in any other lingo, I will sound ignorant. So I totally agree with you. Now, if we can get you out of those low-paying jobs, will be great because your skill set needs to be utilized. You are blessed with a passion and a mind that needs to be shared. Trust me, I'm gonna push you so
I
hard.
appreciate it. We could do the rest. I'm happy to stay right there for the rest of the show. How can we get me paid? And I think that's something that a lot of people, when when they get out of prison, have to struggle with. You are trying to you have this knowledge, hopefully, and wisdom that is unique to you. A lot of the world doesn't have it, but putting it to use can be so difficult. To speak to the point you made a minute ago, I've I can really identify with being very vocabulary. I was going to create a new word.
Right.
I can. I'm used to being equipped as far as words. Wasn't able to present them, but I had the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And what I see today when I'm helping other people as an advocate, I've I've seen people who are so eloquent and they're like myself, during reentry, coming with all this passion,
Right.
vocabulary. didn't do anything for me on its own. It took somebody to point out to me where I was in my own way as a communicator, and that is that's the type of unique challenge that I think is flavored differently for people in prison or getting out of prison. Somebody calling there. I think it's flavored differently, and it can require some attentive or intentional sensitivity by
Yeah.
people who've been there, which is why I really want to move you to ring your trees, or yeah, shake the leaves on your trees for people who are invested in this work. And like the guy who I saw on your last show, excellent interview. Was it Victor Pate, I believe?
Hey, yeah,
Brilliant interview.
Victor is awesome. He's an amazing guy.
I see
Very
guys like that, and I want to be that. And so I hope that you will consider, pushing it on. Let
of
those people
course,
know what's up. Yeah.
of course. So this is in response to the problem is likely the traumas that are not dealt with that cause self-esteem issues and confidence issues. Um, are the reason why most people have a skill that they are not willing to share because they don't see it as a skill. Like, so I noticed that I don't know why I've always talked so much. But I've been in predicaments where my self-esteem was extremely low. I mean, come on. I was a drug addict. I was in a domestically abusive relationships. I was in prison. Like, to myself, there's been days I woke up like and felt like nothing. So it took somebody else to point out to me, no, Natasha, you're this, you're that. And I think when dealing with trauma informed care, because we're talking about formerly incarcerated individuals, prison is traumatizing anyway. So if you've been to prison, you need trauma informed care, right? Now, let's not count on why you may have gone. In that process, it is a necessity that we give the people we are serving the care that they need. Like, there's going to be a lot of moving parts to this reentry world that we are creating because right now it is not done correctly. So the introduction to the reentry world that we are working on now as advocates will have to entail multiple steps of self-building, and one of them will definitely focus on the self-esteem and the confidence of that person, which Toastmasters actually puts into place. If you have absolutely no idea how fulfilling as a human being it is to me that I now speak better. I can't be the only one that feels that way.
Once you can assert your own needs,
Right.
that is an entirely different position than the helpless position that we're often reduced to while we're locked up.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of a greater gift. I remember before I joined, I was terrified to go into situations where I even might have to speak
Right.
about anything important because I didn't have any expertise on anything other than being locked up.
Right.
And it took other people until I joined, um, boosting my confidence, or helping me to slowly make progress to
Right.
become a speaker. But once I got into Toastmasters, it was kind of like I was, when you get on a roller coaster and you
Yeah.
start going up, it's like, oh shit! Like, even if I wanted to jump off, if I wanted to get off, it's too late now. Well, it's not coercive. It ain't coercive like that. It's not. But
Right.
the momentum is so natural yet thoughtfully directed that it's almost like somebody it's almost like having an advocate speak for you
Right.
and then step into your body. It probably sounds weird and overly medical. What I mean is, there's no comparable experience to me like going from needing other people to speak for me
Right.
versus being able to speak for myself. Those are the
Absolutely.
That's priceless. And that's
Absolutely.
something that nobody else can ever get right in the way that you can. Nobody can tell your story the way that Natasha can.
Hmm.
And I know you as a wonderful human being who is dedicated, who's a loving sister, and a million more things. But I don't know. I couldn't scratch the surface if I'm trying to explain to the world the full
Right.
essence of
Yeah.
you.
The essence of
And
me.
yeah, so
So
that's why it's important to take communication and leadership into your own hands. And Toastmasters is a nonprofit that allows you to do that.
So we have 14 minutes before this segment is over. So I'm going to take this time to let all viewers know that Kyle is the co-host, and you will be seeing a lot more of him. He will be the co-host of Talk Time, hosting alongside of me, and we will bring to you different topics of growth, different topics of uh,
We're
yeah,
bringing original content, or I don't know if original is the right word,
right,
never before discussed publicly content that I don't think most people ever I know most people don't consider it, because if they did, the world would have changed by now.
right,
There's so many dimensions of your life that are affected post incarceration that, I mean, Chat GPT can't write this out for you. Once you've lived that experience and you've seen
right.
it, it's over. So I'm looking forward to bringing that with you, because I think that you have a willingness and an ease. I don't know if it's ease, but you have a willingness to go there and to really bring me as a listener into your story. And that's something that nobody had really done before you, particularly when it comes to women's incarceration, which is almost a separate issue in itself.
It
And
is.
I don't know if it's okay to
Yeah,
tap
come on,
on
let's
that
go.
in this
You got me.
conversation. But women, women in prison have obviously they have way less support than men
Yeah,
do, but
yeah,
they're also usually on the back end of whatever legislative change or social push is happening, in the men's prison, and it just kind of trickles downhill to the women's. We pay even less attention to women incarcerated women when their needs are actually, because there's less of them, their needs are more meetable, but often less attended to. Like nobody's even thinking about it or willing to look there, when there are probably some very solvable problems and doable measures, that can be made. And I just can't imagine I can't imagine what it would be like. Fortunately, I don't have to.
you're right,
I talk to women who are incarcerated every day,
right,
and I mean, the horrors that go on that people survive through are just too revolting to specify. But among them, obviously, sexual abuse, not having products
yeah,
staffed, like menstrual stuff staffed,
yeah,
or anything related to childcare, no attention to childcare. You come to prison and you have a child, and you have children already. You What could be more traumatic than that?
right. So,
If
let
someone takes your kid away from you,
me,
that's their fault.
yeah,
Someone takes you away from your kid,
yeah.
that's oh god,
So let me make something clear to you. Even the programs. So when I was in prison, they had switched the way phase 2 was run, and it was actually catered to women. But that's New York. New York is a very progressive state, so we get things a lot faster. However, even the programs in prison are created for men. Women have different issues. Not only is the family support and visitation, the dance floor is way emptier than going to visit a man. The programs alone are not for us. They don't have parenting programs. They don't have, some prisons have Bedford Hills has an Our Children program, but people in Bedford Hills, that's a max prison. So if you're in across the street in a prison like Taconic, which is a medium minimum, you're not getting that Our Children program, which helps your kids go to summer camp and brings your kids to you for trailers. You don't qualify for that, even though you may still have 9 years to do in prison. So women in prison
It's
is
like
a
they
whole
want you to. It's
right.
like they wait till the week before you get out and try to all of a sudden shape you up to be ready.
That's exactly
It's
what happens. And it's not even a week, it's 90 days. Well, it was. I couldn't tell you what it is right now. I've been out of prison for 6 years. I ain't never going back to find out. But I can tell you this. I do know you. I am aware that you have a program for women. And I think the next time we're on this show focusing just on you, we will definitely touch base on that. But I want to give, we don't have a lot of live viewers right now, but this is recorded, broadcasted, and it will be available on multiple streams. BlackUSA.news Facebook, Solitary No More VA Facebook, Torture Free MD Facebook, Donnie Glover YouTube, Black USA YouTube, and Donnie Glover's Twitter. You can put your comments in if you see this show at a later date. If you've been tagged, please share. This is the second episode of Talk Time. Hopefully, as the weeks go by, we will gain more viewers. But tune in, ladies and gentlemen. This platform is to create a better space for us all. You will always learn something here. You will always be able to speak freely here. At this time, I want to say Talk Time is the place to be. BlackUSA.news. Stay tuned. Tuesday after next, 12 p.m. Thank you, Kyle, so much for coming in.
absolutely. I appreciate it.
I look forward to co-hosting with you. I can't wait to see what we talk about next week.
I'm looking forward to it too, sis. I appreciate you. Most importantly, I appreciate you giving me the space to announce what I'm creating that is intended to, like you said, enhance us
Right.
as people who are leading the fight and doing the work
Right.
on different levels, on the individual advocacy level, on the legislative level, and there's this, like you said, this is the place to be. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Peace, y'all. All right.